But most people think that money is created by the government or the central bank or some institution within the government. But those people are only 3% right, according to some figures that were made a few years ago. The rest of the money, 97% of it, is made when people like you and me go to the bank and borrow it. And we borrow it into existence. The money did not exist before. And there's a problem with that because it's undemocratic. The banks, who are private corporations who desire only to maximize profit, are issuing our money out of nothing and charging us for interest. And that means they don't care how much money is in circulation. They don't care if the economy is in boom time because it's got too much money, or if there's a recession or even a depression. But the truth is that the quantity of money is very important in the economy. If you have a lot of money, it makes it easier for the debtors to pay off their debts. And if you don't have enough money, then the creditors can squeeze more out of the debtors. Everyone has forgotten that for every piece of money going round, there's a piece of debt which is owed to a bank somewhere. And that means that all the rich people who are trying to save money and lock it away are actually making it harder by not spending for the debtors to earn the money and pay off the debt. So we have huge amounts of money accumulating in offshore tax havens and critical problems of unemployment and lack of housing and increasing differential between the rich and the poor. And the problem is that the money has been issued, but it's been locked in a tax haven. So taxing would be one way, or just kicking those people out and cancelling the debts and printing some more money would be another way. To those people who imagine a secret cabal running the money system, I would say that's probably a little overdramatic. But what happens between all the leaders of the central bank who meet in the Bank of International Settlements, I think it's every month for a day or two, and they coordinate on a global level, that seems to me a little beyond what should be democratic. It's a group of people who think that the economy should be run on the technical grounds rather than on the basis of good governance. They think they can know best how to grow the economy. So the notion that society has to grow and the volume of transactions in society has to grow means that we're always throughputing more and more stuff, taking out the virgin materials, converting them, and then throwing them away. And we're always consuming more and more energy in doing that. And that sort of means in itself that growth cannot continue. You can't have infinite growth at 3 or 5% a year, or at any rate, on a finite planet. And that suggests that with all the crises happening around us and increasing, we should be moving towards degrowth. And that's a very tricky thing policy-wise. And there's a movement, the degrowth movement, they're quite academic at the moment, but they're looking at the challenges of how do you redesign the economy so that it's not forced to grow every year. There are other people who are saying, well, no, the economy can grow forever on a finite planet. All you have to do is keep making it more efficient. But it seems to me that there's no indication that the economy can get that much more efficient, or is getting that more efficient, or would get more efficient in time. You know, we've got all these artificial 2030, 2050 deadlines. Nothing's happening on those kinds of timescales that would enable us to increase economic growth while decreasing the industrial throughput of materials. The global economic system is past its peak, and it doesn't look like it's going to peak again. It looks like it's now in a decline phase. And some people would call that collapse, and that is quite a dramatic way of calling it, but it might be appropriate. Some people imagine that collapse would happen in a day and everything would fall apart. and other people imagine it would happen over even several hundred years. But what we can say is that GDP is going to go down for some time, real GDP anyway, and that's going to be very disruptive to many of our social systems. I know that there's a huge backlash at the moment against climate science, and there's very correct criticism about how climate science is being used to bring in a more authoritarian style of governance. But I think in all of that, the truth or the weight of the climate science is being lost. And what the climate science seems to be saying is that systems are already on the brink of collapse. We've probably passed tipping points. There's a lot of lag time in the ocean temperatures, which means nothing we do now will affect anything for another 30 or 40 years. I'm sure that's not wholly true. But the point is, it's looking incredibly difficult to do the kind of turnaround that some activists and advocates imagine would be possible and certainly would be needed if we are to avert what they call the worst of the climate crisis. So I think whatever the worst is, I think we should be preparing for it. And that means a little less of the talk of mitigation and hope and more talk of adaptation. And that means we know this shit is coming down the road. We can be planning ahead to minimize the damage it might do, minimize the death and the costs, and that is at least as important an activity or a way of thinking than thinking about mitigation. Those charts where they talk about boundaries, it's about 4 or 5 global civilizational systems. They're all on the brink of collapse. I think you have to accept that things are going to get very, very much worse. There's no chance business as usual is going to carry on unless you're in the top 1% or so. And in that case, you will be responsible for taking things directly off the poor in what is and will increasingly become a zero-sum game. There isn't enough to go round. Businesses and the people won't be able to pay back their debts. The economy will be very, very slow. And that means that the money, because money is issued as that debt, won't be worth anything because the debt won't be able to be collected. There's going to be lots and lots of debt defaults. And so the economy is going to have to transform radically, and it's going to be painful. That's even without any conspiracy theories. That's just the system doing what it does. Capitalism advancing as it is so determined to do. Could all end in apocalypse, nuclear war, who knows? But all we can do is what we can do. And I'm feeling increasingly like capitalism is going to crash. There's going to be a huge, huge debt crisis. And we're going to be living without money, or with much less money, in the not too distant future. That's my feeling of the way things are going. I don't hold out much hope for the civilization we have at the moment, and especially the systems of finance. I think they're going to change a lot. And my hope is that capitalism is going to withdraw to the center like the Roman Empire did, and hopefully leave me alone, and I will be able to build a new economy. I won't be as rich, of course, in material goods, but I'll be surrounded by happy people who control their own lives. We can go beyond that and make spiritual and social progress. And everything, when I'm talking about money and credit and finance, it's just a bridge. It's a step towards a more enlightened way of living together and producing together.
We love you, man!
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would we like to move on?